See, you got a lot of good-looking guests with you this morning, this afternoon. Come right on up. Hello, Mark. Good to see you.
Well, good evening. My name is Don Batson. I'm honored to be the president and the CEO of the Circle of Care, your children and youth ministries program. A lot of you have fans. On the back of those fans are a list of our programs. We have a full report and conference package. But I came to you here today to talk to you a little bit about who we are and what we're doing. You've heard about some of the things happening on the news with DHS, the changes in child welfare, and a lot of people are concerned about how we're going to respond to that. How's that going to affect what the Methodist Church does in its outreach? How's that going to affect the churches in working with the children? And so I came here to talk to you a little bit what we're going to do, what we're doing today. Several people came up and asked about foster care. Well, we do foster care. We're going to do more of it. But as we look forward at what we're doing, and today we're going to have the personal testimony of somebody in our independent living program, personal testimony of someone in our Pearls Hope program, and you're going to hear from the people who benefit from your support of the children and youth of Oklahoma. It's not something that we're new at. We've done it for a long time. 271 years ago, back in 1731, a Methodist evangelist, one of the originators of the Methodist Church, George Whitfield, decided that they needed a children's home in Savannah, Georgia. It was before there was a Georgia. It was before there was a Methodist church, but there was a need. So he went and spoke to people all over America to raise money to form the children's home. And today it's the oldest children's charity in America, called the Bethesda Boys Ranch today. It meant House of Mercy then, and it means a House of Mercy today. And that's what the people of the church do when they see a need. 138 years ago, a Methodist minister called Etta Wheeler was asked to look in on a little girl in her neighborhood that people were worried about. And that's before there was child abuse laws. That was before there was any reason or ways to intervene. But she saw a thing that needed to come forward. And so she couldn't go to court because there's no laws against abusing children. So she went to the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals and got that society to bring that little girl into court. And because of that Methodist minister, Etta Wheeler, we had the first Child Protective Service laws in America passed. 95 years ago, the Oklahoma Conference of the Methodist Church decided that we should have a place for the children of Oklahoma. And so they formed the United Methodist Children's Home in Brittany, Oklahoma, here in North Oklahoma City, later moved to Tahlequah. We continue to respond to the needs of the children of Oklahoma. A few years ago, we saw that we were getting a lot more children that were 15, 16 and over, and fewer children that were under 12. The children under 12 were being worked with at our child share program. So we made some adjustments, and because of that, we've got all these young people in high school and college now. I went to Legacy. I saw 3 kids that graduated college this year, 8 more that graduated high school. Last year was 2 graduate college and 14 high school. That's an amazing accomplishment for the people of the church. We're not responding to a court order. We're not responding to the state telling us what we need to do. We're responding to a higher order that told us to take care of the orphans and the widows. Told us that who accepts this child accepts me, and accepts me accepts that whose name I came in. That's the response we're responding to. That's the need. I've asked Mark Howard here to talk about how the changes we've made in the last year or so has allowed us to expand our program. We used to have kids in big cottages of 50 or 100 kids. And then we moved in the 60s and we had kids in what we call cottage life, of kids with no more than 10 children. And now we're moving to what we call campus Christian homes. And it'll be kids in units of no more than 6. And I say kids, I don't say that ugly, young people, I should say. But it'll give us the opportunity to serve more children than we've ever served before in a more home-like setting. So if you hear stories about what we're not doing, come and talk to us about what we are doing. So I've asked Mark Howard to step forward, and he's going to tell us what our ability to change has allowed us to do. Mark, will you help me?
Well, it's been said that change is an opportunity for change, and as Don mentioned, the child care climate here in Oklahoma is changing. It's changing rapidly. And with the effects of the DHS lawsuit coming to fruition soon, many changes for residential care for us are on the horizon. But we're ready to meet those challenges as we always has been. As times change, so do we. We are changing our structure to be able to house children and youth in state custody on our campuses, as well as those who are in private care. That's one of the few things, we are one of the few institutions that actually does that in the state of Oklahoma. If pastors or lay people have kids, young people that need to be placed who are not in state custody, they can still do that at our campus. Over the past 4 years, our residential services, we've been able to decrease the costs that we have for care while increasing the number of children that we have on our campuses. And this change of structure is going to allow to do that again. We are going to increase the number of kids that we have staying with us on campus while at the same time decreasing our overhead costs. We've also added the ability to stay with our kids after they leave us. Whatever choices they make, wherever they go, we can stay with them because we know that one of the defenses against kids who have been traumatized is secure attachments. And we stay with our kids regardless of where they choose to go. And we've also added the ability for us to go into communities across the state of Oklahoma to do our best to help families and kids in crisis in their own homes by providing intervention services. Now the families don't have to come to us, we can come to them. Our independent living program is touted as the model to go by in Oklahoma. We have set the standard of care for our older youth, and they're the hardest to place within the state of Oklahoma. And most of the programs in the state would like to be able to do the things that we do with our older kids. 80% of the inmates were in the foster care system. A study by the Casey family found that 12 to 18 months after aging out of the foster care system, 27% of males and 10% of females had been incarcerated. 33% were receiving some kind of public assistance, 37% had not finished high school, and 50% were unemployed. And within 2 years of aging out, 6 out of 10 of these youth would be homeless, incarcerated, or dead. But we don't deal in statistics. We deal in help, healing, and hope, and the amazing, amazing grace of a risen Savior. Each year we hold a legacy banquet to celebrate the lives of those young people who have beaten those odds. And as we heard today, these are some of those children. In the last 3 years since the inception of our high school independent living program, we have graduated 100% of those youth who started their senior year in our programs. Wow. This year was no exception. We celebrated 8 high school and 2 college graduations with these youth, and some of those kids are here today. I'd like for you to recognize, I'd like for them to be recognized. These are the kids who graduated high school this year. Wow. To some people, that would not be a great feat, but to our kids, it's monumental because they were those other statistics, and now they are those miracles that we refer to. They are living testimonies to the legacies that you have provided to them. Thank you, Bishop, and thank you, Oklahoma Conference, for allowing us the privilege to be in ministry to Oklahoma's at promise children and youth.
Thank you.
The depths to which we will fall as human beings in order to do each other harm is overwhelming at times. And our capacity to hurt each other, especially our children, is astounding. But grace and truth came into the world through Jesus Christ. And I'm equally amazed at God's ability to use transformed, ordinary people to transform the world into a better place for our kids. And now I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce one of those kids who would like to share a portion of his journey with you, Mr. Austin Horton.
Wow, what a big crowd. All right, I'm a little nervous, so if I say you're going to have to forgive me. I'd like to start by thanking everybody for letting me come out and share with you guys where I'm from and how I ended up where I'm at today. My name is Austin. I live at the United Methodist Boys Ranch. I've lived there since March 18th of last year. I was born to an unwed teenage drug-dependent mother who, for the first 3 years of my life, physically and mentally abused me, and it still scars me this very day. About 3 years into my life, I was taken out of her custody, and a couple months later I was put into my uncle's custody, who I lived with for the next 13 years of my life. And my whole life I had anger issues, stuff like that, you know, just the kind of things that come with the abuse. And so it never really got bad until I was about 12 or 13 years old. And then even though I was raised in the Methodist church and I knew about God and I knew all this stuff, I started to lose my faith a lot. Like, I didn't even believe there was a God. I didn't understand how, if there was a God that's supposed to love us, how could he let something like what happened to me happen to kids all over the world? So I started filling that hole in my heart with things like fighting and drugs. And I was getting arrested all the time at school for fighting and drugs. And eventually, it got to the point where I was on probation and I got arrested one last time for possession of drugs at school. And my probation officer said that either my uncle could find a place for me to go or he would put me in a detention center. So my uncle, being in the Methodist church our whole life, the first place we turned, of course, was to the church. And they pointed us to Circle of Care and the United Methodist Boys Ranch. So my uncle called and we got an interview, you know, all that stuff. I went and I was so surprised by how much like a home it was and how everybody was like family there and how I was accepted despite my past, despite all the trouble I've caused in people's lives. They accepted me. And I mean, it was very surprising. So whenever they asked if I wanted to go through their program and work it, of course I was honored and I said yes, you know. And since I've been at the Boys Ranch, I have been sober for 1.5 years now. And thank you. Since I've been at the Boys Ranch, I found God again, and the staff at the Boys Ranch has just helped me to figure out that, you know, not everything's God's fault, and even though there's times when everybody feels their loneliest, and, you know, I've come to realize that no matter what, God is always there holding your hand. No matter how lonely you feel or how much you think that you are just the worst person in the world, he's always got you. And I am 17 years old, and next year will be my senior year in high school. And when I leave high school, I would love more than anything to go to OCU and go into the fine arts program, and then after that become a motivational speaker and speak to crowds like this and crowds of people who have been to the same place I am, just to let them know that, you know, even in the hardest times, God is there holding you and loving you the whole way. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julia McDonald, the director of Pearl's Hope Transitional Housing. Family homelessness is a growing epidemic in our country, as I'm sure you're all aware, and single women with children are leading the pack. Every story is different, and every story is hard to tell. We've been blessed to serve Tricia and her daughter for the last 4 months, and she would like to share with you a little part of her journey today. So please welcome Tricia.
Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share my story of God's amazing grace in my life. On April 15th, 2008, exactly 1 month until my daughter Destiny's 9th birthday, I was driving my fiancé Matt to work that morning on the turnpike, just like I had every morning for the past 10 months. Almost to his job, I turned and glanced back at Destiny. She was sleeping. I didn't know that that would be the last time I would look at my daughter alive. I continued talking to Matt about what I would make for dinner, and from what I can remember, a car swerved in my lane. To avoid a collision, I swerved as well, lost control of my car, and ended up on the shoulder on the other side of the highway with my car facing sideways. A Dodge one-ton truck T-boned my car, instantly killing Destiny and Matt. My whole life changed that second. I lost everything that made me who I was, or at least I thought I had. I was an empty vessel on this earth. I never lost my faith in God or ever blamed Him, but I couldn't grasp or understand why Destiny and I were separated. Why couldn't we both have lived or both died? The physical, emotional, and spiritual pain was overwhelming. For 2 years, I struggled to escape the reality of what my life had become. Not only had I lost the loves of my life, Matt's family's own grief led them to seek legal proceeding against me. It was too much. I started using drugs and was involved with people that were not healthy for me, instead of the truth and presence of God. I was so very mentally and emotionally broken that I was unable to maintain any kind of employment. Last year, I finally lost my house in foreclosure. But even though I wasn't committing myself to the hands of my Father God, He was still thinking and providing for me through this terrible time in my life. He opened my eyes, and I was able to acknowledge He is here with me. I hadn't worked for 2 years, and yet He still provided food and shelter for me. He was and is the best father I could ever ask for. Through those 2 years of grief and disobedience, God was committed to turning my pain and bad choices into a beautiful new life. One of those blessings is a beautiful daughter that I named Faith. I named her Faith because that is the one thing that never changed in me. I never lost my faith. Faith awoke a desire in me to start living again, to start a new life. I stopped smoking cigarettes after 17 years of being a heavy smoker, and I stopped my drug use and let go of unhealthy friendships. With every positive change I made on the outside, God was changing me on the inside. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. After the foreclosure of my house, Faith and I stayed with various people until I found out about Pearl's Hope. I had been praying and asking the Lord to replace the people I gave up with the right people, people who knew and loved Him. I also asked Him to help restore the abilities I had lost and let me become a good provider again for my child. Well, He answered my prayers with Pearl's Hope. As I arrived at Pearl's Hope, I couldn't believe or even imagine the beautiful people, Julia, Crystal, Barbara, and Michelle, just waiting to help Faith and I. It's as if God handpicked this team of women just for me. It's a lot of hard work living here. They require a lot of self-discipline and accountability, but it is also so well worth every bit. They are giving me exactly the help I need to regain my independence, restore my confidence and self-esteem. Not only are my physical needs met, but I am surrounded by people who love God and encourage my Christian growth. and that is the greatest gift of all. I want to close by mentioning that my car was totaled a couple weeks ago. The challenges never seem to end sometime. But a few days later, without knowing that there was even a need, someone donated a minivan to Pearl's Hope, and I've been able to use that so I wouldn't lose my job. Isn't God so very faithful? There's no way I would have ever been able to replace that car. And if I were living anywhere else, I'd be unemployed right now, again. But my Father God continues to make it very clear to me that He is always watching me, always caring for me, and He is using the circle of care and Pearl's Hope to demonstrate His amazing, amazing grace. Thank you.
My name's Todd Bryant. I'm the Director of Communications for Circle of Care. Some of you may know me as the popcorn guy. And we have plenty more, by the way. I want to do a little memory exercise, everybody. And if it helps to close your eyes, you can do that. But I want you to think back to a time when you held a newborn baby in your arms. Could have been your own child or a grandchild or a friend's child or a niece or a nephew. Think about that for a minute. Think how good that felt. Think how that little baby just radiated love. Okay, now think again. Let's think 2-year-old. Remember a time when you had a toddler and they ran across the room and they just latched onto your leg and hugged to the point that you thought maybe you'd lose circulation in your leg? Think about that for a minute. Now think about a toddler. Think about a newborn baby who doesn't have someone like that in their life. Happens every day. Every day here in the state of Oklahoma, every town in the state of Oklahoma, there are babies and young children that are taken into state custody for their own protection. A variety of circumstances lead to that. And unfortunately, we have a shortage of foster homes in the state of Oklahoma, and so many of these children end up being taken to county youth shelters where, try as best they can, basically they warehouse these kids. Imagine that newborn baby in a cradle 22, 23 hours a day with no human contact. Imagine that toddler just left and neglected. No one to love, no one's leg to grab onto and hold. It happens every day. We get reports from the Department of Human Services every day with a listing of the children that are currently in the shelters. And on a recent day here in Tulsa, there were 26 children under the age of 5 in the county youth shelter. A significant number of those kids were under the age of 2. Nowhere for them to go. No one to love these children through no fault of their own. This is a critical time in the life of a child. They form attachments and bonds, and the things that happen to them at the youngest age can reflect outward through the rest of their lives and impact who they become. It's a difficult situation, and it's something that needs to be addressed. Someone needs to help these children, but what can we do? Well, I'll tell you what we can do. At Circle of Care, we established an emergency foster care program last year in Oklahoma City designed to care for these youngest children. And we are expanding that program into Tulsa, and we need your help. To be an emergency foster parent, it's a little different from traditional foster care. One parent has to be in the home and not work outside the home. As the name implies, it's emergency foster care, and sometimes those calls come late at night when you least expect it. There's a baby in the hospital whose mother is addicted to drugs or is in prison, and that baby needs you. That's who we're looking for in emergency foster care. They take care of the littlest children, age 5 and under. It's short-term. Traditional foster care can last for months or years. In emergency foster care, on average, the stay for the child in an emergency foster home is about a month, 30, 31 days. And then you have to be ready because, unfortunately, that need's not going away. And there'll be another young child that needs help. So I want you to think today, think again about holding that baby. Think again about that toddler wrapped around your leg. And some of you in this audience, I'm sure, have space in your homes and your hearts for a child in need. You may know someone in your church or your family who could meet that need. And if that's the case, I ask you to come see us at the Circle of Care booth. And in between bags of popcorn, we can tell you everything you need to know about being an emergency foster parent. Your church can support a foster family through our child share program. There's a lot of different ways we can help. But we need to do it. We can do it. You can do it, we can do it. Together, we can take care of these littlest children, the littlest of God's gifts, and provide them a solid foundation to build their lives upon. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.
I know that we're running out of time. I wanted to acknowledge, we like to thank the churches that support us, and all the churches do. Every year we find the 5 largest supporters of the church, of our program, the churches that support us, and 5 of the churches that support us the most as per their average attendance, so we don't leave off the smaller churches. We have a plaque for these churches. We would like to get your picture accepting the plaque. Ardmore District in Allen in Ardmore District, Hydro in Clinton District, Fairfax in Stillwater District, Bigsby First in Tulsa District, and Okmulgee in Muskogee District. Those are the 5 churches that's given the most per average attendance to support the Circle of Care this year. And the 5 churches that's given the most overall: Asbury First here in Tulsa, Boston Avenue in Tulsa, Tulsa First, Church of the Servant in North Oklahoma City, and Bigsby First. If you notice, Bigsby First is both on the largest supporters and the largest supporter per capita. They've really stepped forward and do a lot for us. All these churches do, and we thank you. We could not do it without you. Please stop and accept your plaque. In closing, I hope that you got an example of what your support does today at our different programs. These young people you couldn't be more proud of. They may be the first graduating, but they're not going to be the last. David was down with us, and he made an impression. He said when he was here at 18, he got a handshake and a suitcase. And Jim Wagner said, "You got a suitcase?" I didn't get a suitcase. And David said that these young people are going to be part of our family for the rest of their lives. And believe me, that they're going to be part of your family. We can't thank our churches enough. I hope you learned a little bit about the Circle of Care. I know that you will step forward. The Lord said, that you do the least of my children, you do unto me. And let you be assured that your support is taking care of the least of his children. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful report. Thank you, young people.
On behalf of the Circle of Care, we'd like to present you with one of our T-shirts.
Wow, all right.
Thank you.
Good. See, they got something. Okay. All right.
Yeah, they're going to throw them out to the audience.
All right. Very good. All right.
Go for it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.